Next month, a woman with Arkansas ties will be sentenced to federal prison in Seattle. Shay Sanger admits she faked having cancer and made up stories about relatives in trouble in order to bilk an old man with Alzheimer's out of more than $2 million. More than half of that money was sent to family members here in Arkansas. 7 on Your Side's Jason Peterson went looking for the money sent from Washington with love.
Way out in the middle of some fertile Phillips County farmland sits an old building surrounded by some new equipment. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of farm machinery. Machinery purchased with Norman Butler's money. Norman Butler is a retired 80-year-old optometrist suffering from Alzheimer's disease who lives in Washington State and has no interest in farming. To understand why his money was used to buy tractors in Arkansas, you have to turn back the clock a quarter century. In March of 1987, 37-year-old Sharon Lumpkin stabbed to death a 27-year-old Phillips County man. Lumpkin would serve half of her 15-year prison sentence. Upon her release, Lumpkin headed west to Washington for a new start. She would marry twice and change her first name from Sharon to Shay before beginning an online relationship with the newly widowed Norman Butler. By the time Butler's son caught on, Sharon Lumpkin, now known as Shay Sanger, had duped Norman Butler out of more than $2 million.
Dad's always been a very conservative, long-term investor, and he managed his money very well, which is how he accumulated so much. And so the idea that some lady was just asking him for money and he was writing her checks for thousands of dollars just never occurred to me.
Where the money went is where Arkansas comes in. We visited two small towns, Hazen and Elaine, where large chunks of Norman Butler's money was received. For example, Shay Sanger's niece, Shannon Wiggins, works for the Hazen Police Department. But 3 years ago, Wiggins worked for Quapaw Quarter United Methodist Church in Little Rock. Then, she got caught stealing. Wiggins was convicted of felony theft and ordered to repay the church about $50,000. That proved to be no problem when 2 checks from Aunt Shay showed up. Wiggins' husband, Rick, works across the street in Hazen. In March of 2008, a $43,000 check from Aunt Shay helped him get out of a 4-year-old bankruptcy. All told, a U.S. postal inspector has determined that Rick and Shannon Wiggins received close to $200,000 of Norman Butler's money. But the money Shay Sanger sent to her niece in Hazen is small change compared to what she sent to her little brother in Elaine. We went to Mark and Rosemary Lumpkin's house to ask them about it. We didn't find the Lumpkins, but we found many of the items they've purchased over the past several years with mystery money from Aunt Shay. For example, a $38,000 red 2009 Ford F-150 pickup. Then all that farm equipment. A red 2009 Versatile 375 tractor. That cost about $175,000. A 2008 John Deere 8330 tractor, which cost $151,000. A 9760 John Deere Combine, purchased at auction for $137,000. A 2009 John Deere Field Cultivator for $62,000. A MacDon 973 25-foot header for $37,000. The field near us was being worked during our visit, possibly by machinery purchased with Norman Butler's money. There were other checks sent by Aunt Shay to the Lumpkins, like this one for nearly $100,000 and another to M&R Farms for $150,000. The money flowed into numerous accounts at the local bank, or it went to an investment advisor. A U.S. postal inspector says the Lumpkin family has received more than $1 million of Norman Butler's money from Mark Lumpkin's unemployed ex-con older sister out west.
They certainly should have known that money was coming from a source that was, at the very best, questionable. They had to know their sister, they had to know their aunt, and had to wonder, where'd she get $1 million all of a sudden?
Doug Butler has filed civil suits against both the Lumpkins and the Wiggins. The first of those suits is set for trial in March. Meanwhile, the federal government has frozen all of the Lumpkins' property that was likely purchased with Norman Butler's money. Shay Sanger will be sentenced to federal prison on December 2nd. For more information on this case, you can visit the story under the 7 on Your Side tab at KATV.com.
A long and winding road you followed there. Jason, thank you.